But my number 5 was wide receiver Nico Collins from Michigan. He's got a great catch radius. I mean, he's 6'4", so the guy's real big, especially when you look at, the Eagles having Jalen Reagor, who's, he's sub 6 foot and he's more of a yak guy. And, they've always liked that Alshon Jeffrey mold receiver. And you've probably got Alshon gone next year. You've probably got Ertz gone next year. So this dude's huge, 6'4", great hands, good ability to win at the catch point. I mean, he had just under 20 yards per reception in 2019. So, he's a big play threat down the field. He's got a great release. He's not going to get bodied by corners. Some of the flip sides that he doesn't have much yak ability. He's got a real limited route tree. He pretty much ran hitches or 9 routes in college. But I think he could be a good fit for the Eagles, maybe as an X receiver, looking at somewhere in the third, mid to late third round, and a long-term replacement for Alshon. So that was my number 5 guy, Nico Collins out of Michigan.
My number 5 is Landon Dickerson, center prospect from Alabama. This is the only the other 4, I promise you, are either defensive backs or linebackers. I think that is the strength of this day 2 area here and biggest need for the Philadelphia Eagles. But Landon Dickerson, 6'6", 326 pounds. He played every position on the line. He's super versatile, which is incredibly important for the Philadelphia Eagles. He was named first team SEC, first team All-American, SEC's Jacobs Blocking Trophy. So this guy started every game the last 2 years after transferring from Florida State. However, this guy does have one major red flag, and that is he is injury prone. This guy suffered an ACL tear in that SEC championship game against Florida. In the last 5 college football seasons, he suffered 4 season-ending injuries, tore his ACL in 2016, missed 9 games in 2017, forced a redshirt in 2018. But you look at who this guy is; he's a leader. This guy is a ridiculous competitor. He knows you, and who knows what you got with Jason Kelce possibly retiring this offseason. Do the Eagles even look to trade him? He's a dead cap of $10+ million if he's traded before June 1st. So he could probably cost you more if you actually trade him than cut him. So all signs probably point to Kelce returning next year. But this is a position that has to be addressed. At the end of the day, whether Carson's here or not, it's about protecting the quarterback. I've got Landon Dickerson here at number 5. Would be an awesome value pick in that round 3 area.
Well, while we're on offensive linemen, we already mentioned him, but my number 4 was interior offensive lineman Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. Again, I'm an Oklahoma fan, so I've seen every game he's played. But, he came into Oklahoma, which traditionally has really good linemen. They've got a lot of linemen in the NFL, and he started as a true freshman at center. And he lost both of his guards and tackles after his freshman year. And so he's, in a situation where everything else is new in his sophomore season, and he really took a step forward in terms of leadership. He's really a technician at the position, got a really good football IQ. He's not an elite athlete in the mold of Jason Kelce. But Oklahoma pulled him. I don't know that you're going to want to pull him a ton or get him out on the screen game a lot. He's better in those tight spaces. He's left-handed too, which is kind of strange for a center. It would take a little bit of an adjustment for a quarterback maybe, but overall I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I think he could be a good fit, whether it be to take him now and Kelce comes back and he steps in the next year as a Kelce replacement, or maybe Kelce retires now. I don't know. I know that the Eagles took Isaac Seumalo several years ago with the idea he would eventually move to center. When they tried him there in training camp a couple years ago, it was kind of a disaster. So I don't know if that's still the plan. If you do want him to be the center, I think Humphrey could play guard. He didn't in college, but I think his skill set works there well. So just kind of another versatile piece on the interior O-line for Stoutland to work with.
Javonte Williams from North Carolina. Dude, this kid is amazing. He wasn't on as many people's radars, but him and Michael Carter from UNC, they're both phenomenal all year. Javonte Williams, he's kind of like my A.J. Dillon this year. He's like the guy he's like the bigger back that would be amazing to complement Miles Sanders. 5'10", 220, 1,400 yards this year, 222 all-purpose touchdowns. He's a monster. he's the type of guy that would really complement Miles perfectly, or he could just be the lead back on any team. North Carolina, they took a really big step up the last couple of years, and this year it really was attributed to Michael Carter and Javonte Williams just being sensational. Brute strength. I think he even could slide into the first, but I feel like the NFL and the owners are really trying to push running backs to go into the second round for value and cost wise, because Najee Harris any other year would probably be regarded as like a top 15 pick, but some people aren't even expecting him to go in the top 25 because Najee Harris could possibly be like a top 5 running back in the league next year, depending on his fit.
Chris did a great job talking about him. I just think he'd be a great complement to Miles Sanders. I mean, a lot of places he'd be a really good feature back, but he's got that big frame. He's kind of a power runner between the tackles, got really good vision and footwork. But the reason I really like him is because surprisingly for a kind of a power guy, he's a really good pass blocker and he's pretty good receiver too, which is something we know that Nick Sirianni likes to do with his offense. And it's something that Miles Sanders really struggled with in 2020. So if you could get somebody to kind of check those boxes that Sanders doesn't in pass protection, as a pass catcher and for short yardage, I think he'd be a great pick. He's a guy, like Chris said, that I think could go into the first round on talent, but I think it's pretty likely he's there mid-second round just because of the devaluing of that running back position.
You already talked about Georgia, Chris, but I'm going to the other side. I'm going Tyson Campbell, 6'2" cornerback prospect from Georgia, would be an excellent pick there in that second, third round range. He played really well last season in 2020. He's a big corner, someone who is tough. He's got a lot of size, a lot of good cover skills. He's a guy that fits that Jonathan Gannon profile. He's tall, he's physical. That the idea of having Campbell and Slay playing a press man scheme on the outside next year would be very, very could be special, have some sort of potential there. So super talented prospect. He was ranked the number 2 cornerback coming out of high school. He was actually teammates with Patrick Surtain back in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So this guy's a very good tackler, something that you normally don't find out of a cornerback prospect. He's also got some versatility because he played safety in high school. He played both man and zone coverage for Georgia. So I think that like the Eagles love, I don't know what we're going to expect between Schwartz and Gannon, but the Eagles notoriously love to have versatility in their defensive backfield. This guy brings it. What the question is, what is Jonathan Gannon going to do stepping in as defensive coordinator? I think it's likely we see, Shane and I were talking about this, you see Jalen Mills come back on like a short 1-year, $4 million deal on outside corner. Seems like a really good fit in that Gannon defense. So whether you love or hate Jalen Mills, I'm more of the latter, to be honest. But the Eagles must find a bona fide starting outside corner alongside Darius Slay, period. That is Tyson Campbell. I think it would be a really, really good fit there in that second round range.
My number 3 going to the SEC, I've got linebacker Dillon Moses from Alabama. I mean, everybody knows the Eagles need linebacker help. And, watching him, he's a guy that I really like. He's a great tackler, real physical, likes to play downhill, and he likes to hit people. While he was at Alabama, he played in all 3 linebacker spots, so he's got really good instincts kind of across the board, whatever situation he finds himself in. One of the big knocks on him, though, is because he's so aggressive, he likes to go out and hit people. He tends to overreact to play action and to misdirection. So, I mean, he'd fit right in with the Eagles linebackers, right? Because we all do that. But he'd fit in there, and then he struggles a little bit at, getting off of blocks, especially in the middle. So I don't know that you would want him to be a middle linebacker for you, but you could put him on the strong side. He's good enough in coverage. You could put him on the weak side. I think you would want to keep him out of the middle. But he's got the potential to be 3-down linebacker in the NFL, I think. And, he's an immediate upgrade on anyone that the Eagles have. So Dillon Moses, Alabama.
Shane already nailed it. My number 2 is Dillon Moses, linebacker from Alabama. What else is there more to say about the Eagles linebacker position? Nate Gary, remember this mind-blowing stat when opposing quarterbacks targeted Nate Gary In the passing game last year, they completed 27 of 32 pass attempts for 257 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a quarterback rating of 139.7. Unbelievable. Davion Taylor is an interesting pick, interesting prospect for the Eagles moving forward, but in no way does Davion Taylor stop me from addressing this position in the second round. Alex Singleton had one of those like rare bright spots for the Eagles last year. Again, doesn't stop me from moving forward. I'm talking about a potential second round pick here in Dillon Moses, legitimate linebacker that can really do damage, whether that's in the middle or on the outside. There was a time when Dillon Moses was actually considered a first round pick, but this is a guy that kind of missed all of 2019 due to a knee injury. But other than that, this guy kind of gives you everything you want. He's a great tackler. He plays with a lot of speed, strength, and physicality. I actually absolutely love this level of playmaker for the Eagles in that second round range. I would love to see this guy in Midnight Green. And I can't even imagine how like ecstatic Eagles fans would be if they brought in a linebacker from Alabama into that defense. So that would be absolutely a terrific pick for the Philadelphia Eagles.
My number 3 is a guy on the opposite side of that picture, and it was Jabril Cox from LSU. He's one of my favorite prospects in the entire draft. I mean, Jabril Cox was the best linebacker at the Senior Bowl. It wasn't even close. He was going to probably be like an early third-round pick. Now he's probably going to be like a late to mid second-round pick. He's phenomenal in coverage. He started off at North Dakota State. Shout out to Carson Wentz. And then now he found himself at LSU, and he's amazing. I mean, when you watch Jabril Cox, he's just all over the field. And the big thing is you just saw how much linebacker play changes the game watching Tampa Bay. Devin White, LSU guy, and Lavonte David. I think that's probably the best linebacker tandem in the NFL, and they took care of everything. And you need guys like Jabril Cox and like the Devin Whites of the world, because when you're going against like a Tyreek Hill or you're going against Travis Kelce, the first mistake that Tampa Bay made the first time they versed Kansas City was they didn't play as back as they should have for Tyreek Hill. They just put Winfield and those guys as far back, and they said, you're not going deep on us, so you're going to have to work underneath. And Devin White and Lavonte David took care of everything. That would be Jabril Cox for us. He'd easily be our best linebacker. He can cover anyone, and he comes up in the run game. I think Jabril Cox would be a lights out pick and with our second round or third round pick, depending on how the board goes. But there's so many linebackers, and we're going to talk about honorable mentions after we finish our list. But he's definitely one of the best out of the group.
I'm going to stay in the defensive backfield and go for a safety from TCU, and that's Trayvon Mary. Jalen Mills is a free agent this year. Rodney McLeod, 2 injuries last 3 years. He'll be a free agent next year. You got Kayvon Wallace and Grayland Arnold. They both have potential. It's far from a guarantee, though. Those guys are a lock to start in the near future. Marcus Epps played 14 games. He started 5, 47 tackles, 2 picks. He showed some upside, but in no way does that stop me from finding an upgrade here. Howie Roseman said it, last year, although he's straight up lied, that they needed to add youth and speed. Well, Trayvon Mary's game is literally built on speed. In his last 22 games, Trayvon Mary had 6 interceptions, 20 passes defended. He's got great size at 6'2", 202 pounds. He's not a good tackler like my other guy. But he's got good technique, and he's not afraid to play physical. So he's going to need some coaching there, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. But most importantly, though, so many people rave about this guy's intangibles. This guy plays with an energy. He plays with a swagger that you want to see from a safety, and his football IQ and leadership is literally off the charts. He's a guy you want in that Eagles locker room, and he would be a no-brainer for me in that top of the second round.
My number 1, going to the Pac-12 or Pac-10, I still call it the Pac-12. Pac-10, safety from Oregon, Javon Holland. I mentioned earlier, I fall in love with safeties every year, and Holland's not the only one. I'll mention another one in my honorable mention, but I love Holland. Honestly, I think he could sneak into the back end of the first round, but I think he's likely there at the top of the second. He's just got everything you want. He's got a high football IQ. He dropped into the slot for Oregon, so when a team comes out in 11 personnel, they could stay in base coverages. They could put him in the slot. which I know Eagles fans we do not need another slot corner, but he gives you that versatility. He's got great range. I mean, from single high, he can track to the sideline to make plays. He's got good special teams ability, which is not what you draft a guy for in the second round, but it doesn't hurt that he's got that because our special teams were god awful last year. And I tried to list some pros and cons for all my guys here, and I couldn't even come up with anything for him. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's an instant starter for the Eagles, regardless of what happens with Mills. I mean, Mills comes back fine. I mean, I think Holland beats him out. Or you got McLeod coming off an injury. He's going to beat one of those two guys out. He can be your third safety. He can be a slot corner. He can be a deep safety. He can do whatever you want him to do. And I think I would be ecstatic if we walk out of the draft with Javon Holland.
My number one guy, I think he could go in the first round. Some people are mocking him in the first round. I think he sneaks into the second. It's Terrace Marshall from LSU. This guy is 6'3", 6'4", 205. He's a monster. I mean, LSU, they know what they're doing with the receivers. Just look at the track record. This season against Missouri, he had a game with 11 catches, 235 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He kind of reminds me. I mean, you just keep seeing guys come out of LSU, and people are kind of waiting for them to bust, but they're not. You see guys like DJ Chark on Jacksonville. He's kind of one of the larger receivers like Marshall, and he dominates. Marshall, in my opinion, is probably bigger and faster than him. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, they can't talk more highly about the guy. They love him. Terrace Marshall, I think he very well could be a first-round pick, but I think him and Bateman, they're kind of the value guys, because Bateman's probably going to go middle to late in the first, and Marshall's probably going to go middle to late in the first. But those are two guys that could have the better NFL careers, because they might end up on a team that they're not the one, and they can just absolutely dominate.
All right. Let's finish this off. My number one is talking about the depth at safety here is Andre Cisco. Yep. From Syracuse. He would have to fall a little bit like Terrace, your guy, Chris. He's one of those that he could slip into that late first round, but if he slips to the second round, this would be a home run pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. Like Trevor Moehrig, this guy has a ton of speed, and that's what you want out of a top-notch safety prospect. This kid has wheels. He's got excellent closing speed, great lateral quickness. He's got fluid hips that allows him to just change directions in that backfield. He's a legit playmaker. He had 13 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 14 pass defended in 24 games at Syracuse. Like Landon Dickerson, he does come with some injury concerns. So when you're talking about guys that got bit by that injury bug, that's kind of a no deal there when it comes to Eagles fans. But he's young. He's only 20 years old, so he's going to need some coaching. He's a little bit of a project, but this is a safety that has immense upside. I feel like on ESPN, upside. But anyway, Andre Cisco is my number one day 2 prospect for the Philadelphia Eagles. Would be an awesome pick in that second round.